It's so much easier to follow a directive or a command if you have faith in that leader. I think that mental health has become an epidemic, and more of us are recognizing that. But I saw some of the strongest and most motivated, gung ho Marines that came back and just mentally collapsed.
What happens when someone leads through discipline, compassion, humility, and the desire to uplift others? Welcome back to the Inspired Series, a podcast hosted by BAPS Better Living. My name is Dhwani, and today I have the pleasure of having Dr. Angelina Mehta on the podcast. Hi, Angelina. How's it going?
Hi, Dhwani. It's going great. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. It's so nice and sunny outside, and I'm really excited to record our podcast today. So for all our viewers and listeners, Dr. Angelina Mehta is a Gunnery Sergeant in the U.S. Marine Reserve and a naturopathic doctor who owns her own practice. Angelina, that is a very unique background. Marines, medicine. Tell us a little bit more about your journey.
I'd say medicine was definitely a natural calling from childhood. My father was a internal medicine doctor who took innovation to heart, and it resonated with me since childhood. And then I took a little detour to serve our country. My sister Mira, she influenced me by serving the Marine Corps first, and then I followed the next year.
Growing up, what did service mean to you before you took on these bigger forms while you started before you started the Marines or the medicine? And how did your upbringing in spirituality influence your decision to join the Marines?
I think my foundation and service began very early, largely through Mandir, our place of worship, and my family. My mother introduced me to the concept of seva, an ability for me to give back to the community through service. As a child, service served in different forms. Sometimes it meant helping people meet basic needs, and that would be through food drives or cooking for others, supporting families who might need assistance, shelter, or nourishment. It was very hands-on and felt very humane. My father influenced me in a different but equally powerful way through his medical practice. I saw how he treated every patient as divine. It wasn't really a task or a transaction, but an honor. That mindset stays with me today. That serving someone is a privilege, not a burden. Um, I'd say that one of the people who left a very lasting impression on me was my sister, Mira, who was so compassionate and so gentle. She showed me that service isn't loud or performative, it's more relational. And as I grew older, my seva shifted from nurturing roles like teaching young girls at the mandir to a desire to protect others on a broader scale. That evolution came from caring and protecting, and it naturally led me towards serving my country.
So that is such a unique interface of East versus West, right? Because you're kind of you, as you mentioned earlier, you were not performing service. It was something you just genuinely did because that's what you cared about at that point. And as you got older, you carried that forward when you committed to join the Marines. So, moving forward with the Marines, what lessons did the military teach you about service-oriented leadership?
Well, it's interesting because through the values of discipline, responsibility, and selflessness, I learned through spirituality aligned that our my spirituality had aligned very closely with military service. I would say that I was very deeply influenced by my guru then, Pramukh Swami Maharaj, because of his emphasis, because of his discipline, his emphasis in consistency and maintaining humility. So watching him live that life of quiet service and showing up every day with steadiness and compassion, despite being the guru of millions throughout the world, really shaped my understanding of what true leadership looks like. And so, some of the teachings in the military that have resonated with me is the importance of presence, accountability, and teamwork, because leadership isn't something you claim. Usually, it's something that comes from consistently demonstrating it.
I'm so glad you shared that because that actually reminds me of this book that I read earlier. It was called Leaders Eat Last. It was by Simon Sinek, and he pretty much argues that like great leaders, they create such like a circle of safety and trust, and they kind of prioritize like the team's well-being over their own, and that will foster cooperation, trust, and performance even gets better. Do you feel like that resonates with you? Like which qualities do you feel, which qualities um, do you think make someone a leader who serves first?
That's amazing. I love that you've read that book because I really feel like just that phrase, service-oriented leadership, in the Western world seems oxymoronic, but to some of us who have grown up with this concept of seva, it actually just shifts our paradigm to integrate both West and East, right? Um,
Yeah.
and so I think that when our purpose merges with what needs to be accomplished and you maintain compassion for the team, we're able to grow. So that authority that I do have as a leader, whether it's for my with my platoon in the military or whether it's with my staff in my office, it's always going to be based on a people first mindset. So decisions will always be evaluated based on the impact it would make on the staff, the Marines, and in other capacities for other people, clients, stakeholders, for me, patients. And so that's one of the qualities. I would say that another important quality is empowerment rather than control. So, as leaders, to be able to remove obstacles and provide resources is really important. And then something else that kind of steps outside of uh, this um, behind the scenes, though, I do think that ethics and values need to be a foundation. Integrity, fairness, and transparency helps the team feel safer. And I've seen Mahant Swami Maharaj, my guru, who I draw deep inspiration from, embody all of these qualities daily. He emphasizes um, a term called sump that really means unity and fraternity. One specific example that stands out to me is how he consistently places individuals, regardless of status, at the center of his attention. And whether he's speaking to a senior leader or a volunteer, he will listen thoughtfully, respectfully, and he will ensure that the other person feels seen too. This way of leading quietly, selflessly, and without ego has deeply influenced how I try to show up for others in my leadership roles.
As someone who practices service oriented leadership, and as a dental educator, I can resonate with some of these values, right? I can resonate with some of these values because when I'm working with students and residents, I do have to empower them to do their best and help them kind of and help them understand that I'm here as a support, but at the end of the day, it is your responsibility as a healthcare provider to do the best for your patient. So I'm glad you brought this up because it's something that I can resonate with as well. You've mentioned service oriented leadership. Do you feel that it's different from command? And can you explain that distinction, what that distinction means for you?
Command is more of a directive, and I think for anyone in any position, it's so much easier to follow a directive or a command if you have faith in that leader, right? And so I feel like many times people assume the military operates on blind obedience. And while following orders is essential, it works best when trust exists. Trust is built not just through competence, but through the shared experiences out in the field or the compassion during an exercise or there are many other ways you can show it, and we lead by example. And so leaders also have to show that they've been there, that they plan thoughtfully for their team's needs, and that they live by the standards that they expect from others. And so, during an evolution, if we're out in the field for a week, there is 0 hours in the day where you are not observed, right? And so, in those moments, when you don't have to live a double life, when you are living your true purpose, people trust you and they follow you not because they have to, they follow you because they believe in you.
So we're going to take a little bit of a step back here. So you mentioned earlier that you joined the Marines and then you pursued medicine, and this is naturopathic medicine. So what inspired you to do that?
I have always had my sights on medicine, especially when my dad would make work look like play. I think apart from that, I had detracted from wanting to do medicine to a certain extent because I wanted to truly have what I do as a career align with my passion and purpose. And I couldn't really see myself prescribing a medication to someone that I wouldn't take myself. And I actually started studying some law. Um, I got it accepted to JAG program in the military. But I think what's interesting is that was right before I was deployed. During deployment, there was this one time I was stationed in the city, and we were dealing with the population on a daily basis. And we had a distressed father coming in with his son's third-degree burns on his legs, asking for help from our unit. And I mean, we're a team of 5 on an operational, uh, b- you know, outpost that's not even a full base. And so there were 4 of us Marines and the one Navy corpsman who takes care of our medical needs stepped up and actually dressed his wounds there. And being able to really help someone physically and serve someone in a way where it transcends any language barriers was very powerful to me. So that was another reason. And then another reason I circled back to medicine, after my sister helped me also find naturopathic medicine as a profession, was observing my uncle's battle with brain cancer. He was the epitome of health, and just watching some of the what anyone goes through and the limited avenue of what opportunities and aspects there may be on an integrative and alternative medicine platform really drew me to pursue naturopathic medicine after I returned from deployment to Iraq in 2006.
That is such an inspiring story. And I believe that, you did your naturopathic training for 4 years in the medical school, and you started right away. Did you start your own practice?
Actually did, but in I was in Georgia at first, and so there was a limited scope of what I could do on my own. So I actually also joined another practice, and it was the largest integrative practice in Georgia, in the Southeast,
Wow.
actually. And I had seasoned MDs, DOs, nurse practitioners, and naturopathic doctors to be able to learn from for the first 7 years of my naturopathic medical career that really laid a very strong and confident foundation on what therapies we're able to integrate and how many lives we can change.
So being in healthcare, how did service look different to you, or did it look any different now that you're present in this role?
I think serving in a healthcare capacity it takes heart. I think improving the quality of life of someone, the way that you can impact their life is so profound, and I feel very blessed to be in a position where I could do something like that. Oftentimes, people feel herded through most doctors' offices like cattle, but where I've moved outside of the conventional paradigm for my practice and looking into root cause conditions, many times simply hearing the person out and allowing them to feel seen serves them very well as well.
So for, those of us that may or may not be very familiar with what a naturopathic doctor does, can you just kind of clarify what it is that a naturopathic doctor does that is a little bit different from someone who has an MD or DO credential?
One of the biggest reasons that drew me to naturopathic medicine is the way it integrates scientific understanding as well as spirituality. And I'll give you some examples. Uh, for example, yoga. We in the Western world understand it more for movement and for exercise, but the other benefits beyond that the additional benefits include promoting lymphatic drainage, resetting the parasympathetic system. I mean, it's simple positions like when we do danvat, which is when we prostrate in front of our idols. The maxillary sinuses that we have are the only sinuses that drain upward. And so, unless you do something where you are inverted, those maxillary sinuses do not get a chance to drain. Another
Wow.
example is waking up early. Our circadian rhythm and stress are associated with endocrine dysfunction a lot of times. And one of the one of the things that are not so popular but popular and now gaining traction is fasting, right? um, there are benefits with apoptosis, with autophagy. Basically, the body is able to clean up the dirt and debris that's been accumulating, and it also exercises our muscle of willpower. I like to call
Yes.
it a muscle because willpower is something we have to exercise to build stronger. It's harder at any point to begin exercising and getting fit than to already be exercising and maintaining what you have, right?
I love how you said that willpower is a muscle because I remember when, recently I gave up coffee and I stopped drinking coffee and I went cold turkey where I just stopped. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna have coffee again. It's been a couple of weeks and there were times where I'm like, well, I had a really long day. I should have coffee, but I really had to test myself and be like, no, no, but I'm not gonna do it. Like this is just something I'm not gonna do anymore. So I understand that, you know, when you don't have that willpower, you don't practice it on a daily basis, it is so easy to just get distracted or just say, oh, it's okay. It's just one time I'll have it. And then there you go. Like your cycle is reset again and you have to start all over again. So I could definitely resonate with that concept of willpower. And you mentioned earlier with yoga, right? Because, right now everyone, they say that what is yoga, right? It's like, it's actually an opportunity for you to connect to someone you're not just connecting to the body, right? You're connecting to a higher power, right? Like these exercises and asanas that are doing, they're just a way for you to connect to that that higher power that's within you. And obviously, movement is part of it, but so is pranayama or breath work, right? So
Mm.
it's yoga truly is an intersection of east meets west because you're moving while you're flowing through these asanas and having certain in certain positions, or you're breathing, you're exercising your control of your breath. You really are focusing on um, the God, or the God that's in you. And to me, that is true yog sadhana. And I don't know if that's something that resonates with you as well.
I think that mental health has become an epidemic, and more of us are recognizing that. But if we can maintain some of our like daily nutrition, what that looks like for our mental health, daily health is meditation, breath work, prayers. We have a leg up. We are in a much better position to be able to handle the trials that come through life a lot better. An example that I have seen is when we transition back from being deployed to Iraq, and then coming back to the US, there are many warrior transition briefs that are held. And at that moment when you're hearing it, oh, he's just saying things. Well, duh, yeah, we know these things. And then when you actually shift and you went from, wow, people are dying on a daily basis, to sitting with friends saying, oh, what color should I get my hair dyed? It's a huge adjustment. And I saw some of the strongest and most motivated gung ho Marines that came back and just mentally collapsed. And I feel like the ones that didn't all had some sort of faith, spirituality, even if it wasn't aligned with a specific religion, some sort of purpose that kept them grounded.
Speaking of grounding, I think we're ready for our lightning round. Are you ready for that?
Okay, let's do it.
Who's a leader that you admire?
The ultimate would be my spiritual guru, Mahant Swami Maharaj, without a question. I would say my senior enlisted in the Marine Corps, Master Gunnery Sergeant Avila, Major Schweitzer, Colonel Soon, like the list goes on. There are amazing qualities that some of these Marines possessed as a leader. They have been able to that I have been able to take their virtues from and imbibe in my positions, because I think that when you experience leadership, the great part is that we don't have to criticize anything, but we can take what we admire and leave what we don't, to just create the best leadership within ourselves or in whatever service we want to perform.
So earlier I talked about the book that I just finished reading. What's a book that you just finished reading?
There is an amazing book that I am reading currently. It's called The Emotion Code. And I really appreciate the perspective that he brings out, in the sense of emotional layers within us can impact us physically, mentally, spiritually as well. And working on that is very important. So.
Well, thank you, Angelina, for being here today. And, Angelina's story reminds us that leadership, it's not about rank, it's actually about responsibility. Whether in uniform, in the clinic, or doing seva at the mandir, she shows us that the strongest leaders are the ones who put others first. Thank you, Angelina, for living the kind of leadership that prioritizes humanity over hierarchy. And to all our viewers and listeners, namaste.